I've had the privilege of living in 3 countries across 3 continents over the past year: Thailand, Canada, and Sweden. And through it all, I'm trying to reach financial freedom while figuring out where in the world my money will go the furthest. So I decided to see what $50 of groceries gets me in each place. Because cost of living has everything to do with saving money and reaching my goal of financial freedom without sacrificing on fun. I filmed my real shopping trips across all 3 countries when I was living there. And I don't think I truly realized how drastic the differences were until I went back and compared my footage and bills. So let's jump in. Let's start in Bangkok, Thailand, where I lived for about 7 months this year. In Bangkok, grocery stores are definitely on a tiered system. So you've got those street markets that are super cheap. Then you have stores like Big C or Lotus that are more mid-range. And then places like Tops or Gourmet Market that are super expensive and import heavy. For this trip, I went to Lotus. It's pretty typical for expats or locals who want decent quality without overpaying. I will flag though that in Bangkok, I rarely cook or go to grocery stores. This is because food here, especially eating out, is super affordable and often cheaper than cooking at home. In my 7 months of living in Bangkok, I only cooked a proper meal twice. The rest of the time I always ordered in or ate out at restaurants. That being said, for this video, I did try to shop more holistically. I'll be comparing some of my main grocery shopping staples, as well as flagging things that are exceptionally cheap or exceptionally expensive, and of course summarize what $50 gets me at the end of each country. We'll start in the fruits and vegetables category, where firstly I want to highlight just how cheap and also delicious mangoes are in Bangkok. Mangoes here cost 39 baht per kilogram, or $1.20 USD. That means I bought 5 mangoes for like less than $2. And as a person who loves mangoes, that's incredible. Other locally produced fruits like grapes or dragon fruit are also relatively cheap, but maybe not as cheap as the mangoes. Other exceptionally cheap fruits and vegetables are the green leafy veg in Bangkok. In general, Southeast Asia has way more vegetable varieties than in North America or Europe. For example, this stalk of morning glory cost me about 10 baht or 30 cents. I'm not sure if there's anything you can get for 30 cents in Canada or Sweden, honestly, at the grocery store. Finally, to wrap up our fruits and vegetables category, we can take a look at the other types of produce you can find, which includes everything from mini eggplants to various types of mushrooms, all for less than 50 cents USD per item. Up next is our meats category, and we'll start with eggs, which to me is a pantry staple. A dozen eggs in Thailand cost anywhere from 50 to 70 baht, which is $1.50 to just over $2 USD. That's definitely a little bit cheaper, but nothing too crazy, I think. There's also a huge variety of other types of meats from every part of the chicken, of the pig, of the cow, and everything in between. Chicken is usually my go-to and another staple ingredient. And in Bangkok, it costs 79 baht per kilogram for the thigh and 93 baht per kilogram for the breast. That is $2.50 to $3 per kilogram. This is probably a third to a quarter of the price that I've seen in North America and in Europe, which is super good. And here you can even choose how much chicken you want, so none of it goes to waste. As you can see, almost 650 grams of chicken thigh that I bought cost me less than $1.50 US. I'm also a big fan of fish, so we can take a look at some of the fresh fish options here as well. I went for the tilapia this time, which is a white fish that was definitely the cheapest on the menu at 35 baht per fish. So yes, I bought an entire fish for just over $1 US. Now let's move on to cheese, because that's also a staple for me. These prices are definitely higher because cheese and maybe some yogurts are imported products. So like this 200 gram of mozzarella cost me 159 baht or $5 US. And 2 little yogurts cost me 50 baht or $1.50. Up next are our packaged or processed goods. So for example, pre-made dumplings for 129 baht or $4 USD. And other items like frozen pizzas that cost 295 baht or $9 US. Again, the imported goods are likely a bit more expensive. Thailand is definitely not shy of snacks. There is a huge variety and a huge range of snacks and even condiments and things that you can get. So if you want to be cheap, there are definitely cheap options, but if you want to be expensive, there are expensive ones too. Asian style sauces is definitely another pantry staple for me, and these cost anywhere from 30 to 70 baht, which is $1 to $2. Let's also take a look at the various carbs that you can get. Rice is a classic, and for 200 baht or $6, you can get 5 kilograms. You can also get about 500 grams of pasta or rice cakes or even rice noodles for a similar price of 75 baht or $2. So now let's go to checkout with all of our stuff. And let's summarize, shall we, what $50 got us at the grocery store in Bangkok, Thailand. I got 500 grams of strawberries, 1 kilogram of seedless green grapes, 300 grams of mushrooms, 1.5 kilograms of mangoes, 1 kilogram of Chinese cabbage, 1 kilogram of morning glory, 1 clove of garlic, 1 bag of mixed greens, 1 kilogram of chicken thigh, 800 grams of chicken breast, 1 entire tilapia, 200 grams of mozzarella, 200 grams of Greek yogurt, 25 pork dumplings, 500 grams of peanut butter, 1 can of pasta sauce, 1 can of Thai chili mix, 1 package of rice cakes, 1 package of sweet potato noodles, and 1 package of pasta that were about 500 grams each. And this in total cost me 1,574 Thai baht, or $48.98 US. And of course, after a long grocery shop, had to treat myself to a little drink from Mix You, which cost 70 cents or 20 baht, as well as a yogurt for my boyfriend. And then we took a nice short walk home, which was about 15 minutes, and brought back all of the groceries that we got. So let me know what you think about grocery shopping in Thailand. Were the costs lower or higher than you thought? And also, would you be like me and eat out 98% of the time if grocery prices were like this? Let me know in the comments. And now let's move on to Canada, where I fear perhaps our $50 will not stretch as far as it did here. But let's take a look. To make it a fair comparison and to also accurately reflect me, someone who likes eating both Western and Asian foods, we are going to go to 2 grocery stores. T&T, which is an Asian supermarket in Canada, as well as Costco, which if you know, you know, but I'll explain more later. Let's once again start with fruits and veggies. Do you remember those green grapes that we looked at in Thailand that were 149 baht for about 500 grams? Well, that's actually 6 Canadian dollars, and these grapes were 4.88 in Canada. However, these box of mangoes that are 4 kilograms were almost 20 Canadian dollars, which is 5 Canadian dollars per kilogram, whereas in Thailand it was closer to 250. In the Asian grocery stores in Canada, you also get a pretty good diverse selection of vegetables. You don't really get this at your No Frills or Walmarts, which are the non-Asian grocery stores, but either way, these prices are quite expensive. These prices are like 10x the cost in Thailand. As you can see, it's about $2.99 a pound, which equates to $6.50 a kilogram. And if you recall, in Thailand, we were looking at the dollars or cents for these vegetables. But that cannot stop me from buying some veggies anyway, because I just love green leafy vegetables. Maybe you also recall us looking at the mushrooms in Thailand that were about $1 Canadian. And here you can get 1 package of a similar size for about $2.50, which is therefore about 2x the price in Thailand. But now let's move on to meats and alternatives, and we'll start with fish. I know we started with chicken in Thailand, but when a single fish cost me 35 Canadian dollars, I don't exactly have the budget to go buy chicken after that. I miss when our fish cost only $1 in Thailand. 35x the price is kind of crazy. There's of course cheaper protein options like pork for 5 to 6 Canadian dollars per kilogram, but you can also get expensive with the steak for sure too. Let's move on to the pre-packaged goods. In this case, dumplings for about 11 CAD is about 2x the price that we see in Bangkok, Thailand. I took a quick look at some of the condiments and other items like oyster and chili sauces, and those were about 4 to 7 Canadian dollars or like 3 to 6 USD per jar, which is a little bit more expensive than Thailand, but not a lot. Although please remember these prices because remember we're comparing to Sweden next, and yeah, that'll be an interesting one. Next, let's look at carbs. For example, rice is $13 per 6.8 kilograms or 7 Canadian dollars for a kilogram of rice cakes. This is about 2x the price of Thailand, but for Canada, not terrible, I think. Just like in Bangkok, I get pretty hungry after grocery shopping, so of course I had to buy some pre-made snacks and foods as well. But this I'm actually not going to count in the budget because it got pretty pricey pretty fast. They were delicious though. So to summarize, this is what $50 got me at an Asian grocery store in Canada if you don't count the pre-made goods that I got at the end. So to break it down, we got a kilogram of green leafy veg, we got 500 grams of mushrooms, let's only count the 2 kilograms of mangoes so that we can afford the singular fish, and a package of dumplings. But I know what you might be thinking, maybe T&T is just an expensive grocery store, which could be fair, so let's check out Costco instead. For those of you who don't know, Costco is a massive membership-only supermarket that sells a ton of bulk products at discounted prices. So surely we must be able to get some more things for groceries in Costco than we did at T&T. So let's go take a look. But first, Costco is also known for giving free samples and snacks. So let's first grab some extra snackies because we need to get through this grocery day somehow. We'll start by filling in some of the gaps. For example, we haven't bought any bread yet, so let's get mix and match bagels for $7.99 Canadian dollars, which is just under $6 USD for 2 packages of bagels. Next, I've promised you chicken, so let's take a look at some of the protein options. As you recall, chicken breast in Thailand was a couple dollars per kilogram, and here it's $14.99, which is about 7x the cost. However, what Costco is known for is their infamous rotisserie chicken for $7.99 for 1.2 kilograms of delicious pre-made chicken. That is a heck of a good deal if you ask me. Let's also take a look at eggs, which is another one of those staples that I mentioned that is a good comparison benchmark. In Thailand, you could get a dozen eggs for about 3 Canadian dollars, and here you can get 2 dozen for about 8. So honestly, it wasn't too much more expensive to buy eggs at Costco than in Bangkok. Only about $1 more expensive per dozen. Moving on to some more fruits and vegetables, you can get some sweet bell peppers for $6.50 for 6 peppers, or bananas for $1.30 per kilogram. This is another one to remember because although it's not super pricey in Canada or in Bangkok, you should see Sweden. Of course, you can't forget about buying snacks in bulk. For example, this 36 pack of assorted Lay's chips for only 14 Canadian dollars. We also usually get our yogurts and cheeses from Costco because it is the cheapest option. For example, 2.4 kilograms of yogurt for only 8 Canadian dollars is definitely way cheaper than in Bangkok. So the curse of Costco is that it's almost impossible to ever leave the store without at least a couple $100s of groceries, and evidently this time was no exception. We definitely got more than that 50 USD allocation, but I'll tell you what $50 could have gotten us out of everything that we did get. So for $50 in Costco in Canada, we could get 6 bell peppers, 2 dozen eggs, a whole lot of bananas, a whole lot of chips, and 2.4 kilograms of Greek yogurt, as well as 1 package of bagels. All the rest of the stuff did not fit into our $50 budget this time, but I think for what we got for $50, it really wasn't too bad. I think we definitely got more here at Costco than at T&T, although of course it still is not so comparable to Bangkok, Thailand prices. If you're curious about how much all of this did cost us, it cost us 321 Canadian dollars for 27 items. That is 236 USD of groceries. And with that, we lugged our groceries home via car. Definitely no walking for grocery shopping in Canada. And finally, let's take a look at what $50 can get you for groceries in Stockholm, Sweden. One quick note for here as well, the grocery store ICA that I went to is pretty central in the middle of downtown. This is because this one is close to where I live and quite central, so I can walk there. However, it is a smaller ICA, not an ICA Maxi, and due to its location, prices are often 20 to 30% higher than maybe an ICA Maxi on the outside of Stockholm. But let's dive in and take a look at exactly how much more expensive these prices can be compared to Bangkok and Canada. We're starting off pretty good with potatoes that are 19 crowns per kilogram or $2 per kilogram. Potatoes are definitely a staple here in Stockholm, and so they're actually relatively cheap. I'm also going to get some additional produce like tomatoes for 35 crowns per kilogram or $3.50 US, and cucumbers for 15 crowns each or $1.60 US. I also had to get some more Asian inspired veggies like Napa cabbage, which costed a whopping 49 crowns per kilogram or 5 USD, which is 5x the price that it is in Thailand and 2x the price of what it would be in Canada. I'll actually be visiting a specialty Asian grocery store in Stockholm as well, just to make sure we're doing a fair comparison. So make sure you stick around for that. Because as you can see at the little ikas, the variety of vegetables are definitely more limited. The same goes for fruits, more pricey and more limited, especially when compared to Thailand. Let's once again compare the cost of chicken in Stockholm, which is about 137 crowns per kilogram, which is about 1440 USD per kilogram, thus being relatively similar pricing to Canada, only a little bit more pricey, but definitely much more pricey than Bangkok. It's pretty comparable to the price of ground beef and ground pork as well. To my surprise, the Ika also offered a rotisserie chicken for 86 crowns or 9 US dollars. That's about 1.5x the cost of the Costco rotisserie chicken, but all in all, not too expensive. What is cheaper in price in Stockholm than in Thailand is the charcuterie stuff. So salamis, prosciuttos, various cheeses. Not only does it taste a bit better in Stockholm, in my opinion, but it is also about 25% cheaper and a lot more variety to choose from than in Thailand. Let's also bring the eggs back for another comparison. Here is 1.5 dozen eggs for 60 crowns or 6 US dollars, which if you compare it to the dozen is honestly pretty similar pricing to Canada and about a bit more expensive than Thailand. But my boyfriend swears that the eggs in Sweden taste way better than the ones anywhere else, so maybe it's worth it. The other item that people often rave about in Sweden is the butter. I'm not usually a big butter person, but this costs 159 crowns or 1670 US dollars per kilogram, and apparently is really good butter and for a decent price. It is definitely more on the expensive side, but again, people swear that this butter is amazing. As I'm sure you can already tell, generally the foods that is more local or more popularly consumed in the country is often better or cheaper, or both. Which makes a lot of sense and honestly really proves how eating local is not only better for your wallet, it also tastes better and is better for the environment because you're not importing and exporting and shipping things all around the world. Now let's take a quick look at some of the carb options in Stockholm. Lots of breads that you can get for a relatively cheap price. 20 to 40 crowns for an entire loaf, which is 2 to 4 US dollars, and pastas being equally affordable at 25 crowns or 250 USD for a kilogram. I also go back to dumplings. Here, 320 grams of dumplings cost 56 crowns or 6 US dollars, which is honestly comparable in price to what we see in Canada, maybe just a little bit more expensive. And you definitely can't forget some of my favorite items that are known in Sweden: Dame cakes, which are delicious chocolatey cakes that are gluten-free, as well as all of the assortments of candies and gummies that they have at all of their stores. Now let's summarize what 50 US dollars got me at an Ica in Stockholm, Sweden. I got 500 grams of tomatoes, 2 cucumbers, a quarter Napa cabbage, 1 Dame cake, 1 package of chicken that was about a kilogram, and 400-gram assortment of salami and cheeses, as well as a dozen eggs. But no fruit because it was a bit expensive and didn't look the best. But now let's take a quick peek at the AM store, which is the Asian grocery store in central Stockholm. The TLDR for this store was everything was really freaking expensive. Expensive enough to the point that I just decided I would eat Asian food again when I went back to Bangkok. Highlights include shrimp costing 290 crowns or 30 US dollars for 750 grams, or 500 grams of kimchi costing 9 US dollars or 83 crowns. 500 grams of rice cakes cost 60 crowns or 630 US dollars, which is also about 1.5x the price of Canada, let alone comparing to Bangkok prices. And most of these condiments were in the 5 to 10 US dollar range for small quantities, which is also about 1.5x the price of what it would be in Canada. So for 50 US dollars in this store, you could maybe get a package of shrimp and a few sauces, and that's about it. It's pretty wild how $50 can stretch differently around the world depending on where you are, but the local context and cultural differences definitely have an impact on that too. As I'm building towards financial freedom, all of this has to become part of the consideration list. Which place do you think surprised you most? Let me know in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe if you're curious about how I spend, save, and earn money around the world while on my path to financial freedom without missing out on fun. Bye, I'll see you in the next one.